Elden Ring features some of the most stunning visuals ever seen in a game. Each area of the map provides a unique atmosphere of the landscape and the sky, and it would really translate well if we could edit our photos to look something like that. I'm going to show you how to recreate the different areas of the world of Elden Ring in Lightroom into your photography. This video will cover turning your photos into the Stormveil Castle area of Elden Ring, but in future episodes of the series we're going to cover each of the other areas in the Elden Ring world, so make sure you subscribe so you don't miss those future episodes coming soon. Let's take a look at the Stormveil Castle image that we're trying to mimic with our edit. Take a look at the overall color. It's basically blue, green, brown across the board, which is really nice. The Limgrave edit was super tough because the sky and the landscape were completely different colors, so we had to do a lot of masking. This one is not going to require all too much. It's all kind of the same color grade, which is going to make it pretty easy on us, and it's going to make this very presettable. Like, we don't have to rely on masks, we can just rely on the basic sliders across the board to cover our image. If we take a look at the sky, we have pretty unclear clouds. There's a lot of contrast in there. There's like bright spots, there's whites, there's blacks, but the texture is just not there, right? It's kind of just a blur. It's like a smear of clouds. And then just in the overall image, if we look at our blacks, they are not strong. No deep blacks in the image to be seen. So those are just a few of the high-level edits that we're going to make. This is the photo that I've chosen to convert into the Stormveil scene. The reason I chose this is we have clouds in the sky. First of all, we need clouds to match Stormveil. Obviously, you're not going to imitate a Stormveil scene with a clear cloudless sky. It just doesn't make any sense, right? So we have enough clouds. We also have enough brightness and darkness in the sky to kind of be able to blend into what Stormveil looks like. And then our landscape is complex enough with enough darks and lights and highlights to be able to pretty fairly easily mimic into the Stormveil vibe. Okay, so I'm going to work with this photo. Let me know which kind of photo you guys are going to work with in the comments below, but we're going to go through how to adjust the sliders to turn this into Stormveil. I've already done this on the side over here, and this is what it's going to look like in the end, but we're going to show you how to get there using just a bunch of sliders and I think only 2 or 3 masks, which are pretty simple edits. Okay, so let's jump back into here. We're going to do this from scratch. Let's get started. Okay, the first thing we're going to adjust is the tone curve, and I think this one's pretty easy, and most of the Elden Ring edits actually have a similar tone curve because none of them really have very deep blacks, so we want to raise those blacks up. And then in Stormveil, our highlights are very muted as well, so we kind of have a flat image in terms of contrast. So what we're going to do is we're going to put our few points along the tone curve here, and we're just going to take our blacks and drag them up like this and like this, maybe just a tad off the center line there, and then we're going to take our whites and kind of do the same thing and bring this one down just a bit as well. And there we go. That's all we have to do with the tone curve. We're actually not going to mess around with the colors right now. I don't think we're going to need to do that for this particular preset, so that's going to make it nice and simple. Let's jump back on over to the basic sliders. The basic sliders don't actually require that much either, but we're going to start with exposure coming down a full stop, probably about minus 1.05 should be good, and then we're going to drag our whites up here as well to counteract that just a bit, and that's going to kind of get us a darkened vibe that we get with Stormveil, but still keeping the sky well lit like Stormveil is as well. Our temperature is going to come up just a tad. Like, it's the original was 5700 for this photo. We're going to bring it up to 57 or 5770, something like that. We're just gonna bump that up just a tad. Now we're gonna come down here over to the presence sliders. For presence, our texture is gonna stay where it is for now, but we are gonna change that via masking for the sky specifically to really drop that down. But right now we're gonna bring the clarity up quite a bit, because if we look at our Stormveil sample image, we're gonna have a lot of contrast in the clouds, and I think clarity is gonna really bring us there. Right to where we want to be. So I think clarity up almost 50 points, which is a lot, but I think that's for this particular photo what's needed. And then we're going to drop dehaze down by about 10, and I think that's going to get us right where we want to be to start off. Everything else can stay right where it is. We're going to make the vibrance and saturation type adjustments to the individual colors next in the color mixer. So let's come on down to the color mixer, and here we're gonna mess around with some saturation. If we look at Stormveil, we have obviously kind of a blue-green setup, but we're actually going to drop our saturation of blue all the way down. And that's because we're going to incorporate that via the color grading wheels instead of with the actual colors present in the image. So we're going to drop all of these down. We're going to also drop red down. Our orange can stay right where it is because there's a lot of those, like in the Stormveil Castle itself, kind of the orangey brown kind of edging on the castle. So we want to keep that in, and we want to keep our oranges present. Our yellows are going to come down just a bit by about -30, and so are our greens to about the same place. And then whatever blue or green kind of feeling we want, we're going to incorporate using the color grade wheels. For our hues, we're going to bring orange down just a little bit like this, and then we're going to bring yellow way down towards the oranges. And that's because we kind of want a single color vibe for the oranges and browns. Look at Stormveil again. All of the trim is the same color, so we want to kind of get all of our yellows over to that. So we're going to drag the hue way down towards orange. We're just going to drag the orange down just a little bit towards the red area as well. Luminance is kind of going to be the opposite between orange and yellow. We're going to drop orange way down by about 50 to 60, and then we're going to drop yellow down about half of that to about 30, and that's going to get our yellow and orange theme to about the same color using the hue, the combination of hue and luminance. Bringing those down to like the brown range is how we're gonna match all of our yellows and oranges to the same brown. Now it's time to move on to our color grading. We're gonna take our shadows and midtones both over to this kind of blue-green range. I have the hue at about 160 on here on my wheel, and then it's going to be about the same for the midtones, maybe a little bit higher, like 155 or so, but quite a bit of saturation in this because we want to get whatever kind of color scheme Stormveil is. This is where we're really going to bring it in to the image, is using the color grade. Unlike Limgrave, we couldn't really do that in Limgrave because we don't want the whole image the same color. Stormveil, nice and easy. Everything's bluish green. Now we have our highlights. We're gonna bring over to the orange side just a little bit, and we're gonna bring those up to about here. And yeah, this is going to be a good starting place. Maybe have the highlights around the hue of like 40 here, and then our midtones and our shadows both around 160. And that's going to be really nice as it is. A quick slider adjustment. We're going to bring down our exposure just a little bit like this, and bring down our whites just a little bit as well. It's looking a little bit too bright, I think, for the feel that we're going for. So yeah, exposure down around here, -115, and then whites down, well, I mean, up to about +29. And then for our tone curve, I think we went a little bit too much on the blacks coming up, so we're gonna bring those down just a tad, just like this. We still want the blackest of blacks up, but we want to drop down some of our other shadows, and I think that's about good and where we want to be. So now let's take a look at our 3 masks that we're gonna do. Our first mask is going to be the sky, so it's just a select sky mask, pretty easy. Here we go, and now let's look at the adjustments we made. All we do is drop exposure of the sky down by about 0.3, and then we're going to go down to our texture slider here, drop it down to about -68. Our clarity is going to come down a little bit as well, and bump our dehaze, and that's going to give us a good kind of like smooth cloud feeling, but with contrast still, if that makes any sense. That's kind of what Stormveil features, is we're gonna have like I guess smudged clouds, but still with color or lighting contrast, with some whites and blacks in there all at the same time. So if we reveal what this mask looks like, there we have it. This is with the mask on. I mean, this is with the mask on, and then this is with the mask off before we made those changes. So we're basically just darkening up the sky a little bit and dropping that texture way down, and that's going to feel a bit more like Stormveil. Now let's move on to mask number 2, which is simply a select sky and inverse. So everything else, let's take a look at how we want to adjust that. So for this mask, we're going to bump the exposure up a little bit to essentially be able to see the details a little bit more, and then we're going to drop our whites. So we're going to counteract our base level exposure and white settings, and now we're going to come down to temperature, bump it up a little bit towards the orange because it was a little bit too blue, and then our tints a little bit towards the magenta for the same reason. And then in this particular shot, We're gonna bump up our clarity way up to about 50, and then our dehaze just a small bump as well. But we also have some color curve adjustments here. So in our greens and our blues, what we're going to do is in the shadow area, we're going to take our points and we're going to pull them down towards the magenta just a little bit, just like a couple points down below the line. And then in our midtones, we're going to go above the line towards the green. And then we're going to basically copy and paste that color curve setting onto the blue and yellow tone curve, where in our shadows, we're going to take our curve, pull it down towards the yellows a little bit, and then in our midtones, we're going to go up towards the blues just a little bit as well. So what that mask is going to do for us, if I turn off the overlay to see, this is what with the mask on, this is with the mask off. So we're just brightening up the image a little bit. Our colors are going to shift a little bit, and that's going to be a pretty solid edit. And then my final mask here is just a gradient mask to darken up the foreground to match our Stormveil image. So I'm going to turn that mask on. That one's really simple, just a linear gradient from the bottom and then just drop exposure on that, no other changes. And that's going to be our final edit, and that is going to be nice and simple, honestly, very presettable. There you can even probably preset the masks with just the select sky and select everything but the sky, and that is going to be pretty copy pastable to another photo. So yeah, this one is going to be kind of nice, I think. If we take a look at our final image with our Stormveil sample image next to this one, I think it's looking really good. Up next is going to be Liurnia. If you guys are excited to see that, don't forget to subscribe to the channel, leave a like, leave a comment below which Elden Ring world is going to be your favorite one to edit, or which one you're going to be looking forward to the most, and I will make sure to grab that in a video. All right, so I will catch you guys in the next one. We'll see you soon.